Guten Tag, it's Anna here from Australian Mountain Bike Magazine. Do we have a treat for you today? We have been checking out for the past month or so the new Bosch Performance Line SX motor. We're going to talk to you about what makes it different, what makes it special and unique in this video. Check out the slim lines of the bike aboard this Canyon. We have the Bosch SX drive unit here integrated, and we also have the compact tube within that down tube. From afar or at a cursory glance, you could probably mistake this just for a regular trail bike. With 400 watt hours in the compact tube, it's a fair amount for a lightweight trail bike. You get a fair bit of range on this bike. Okay, we're no stranger to the CX motor from Bosch, but the SX line marks their debut into that lightweight e-bike motor system. So what makes it a bit different? Well, the Performance Line SX motor itself is in a magnesium casing. It weighs just 2 kilos for the drive unit. It also features a narrower Q factor to simulate a more natural, regular sort of bike pedaling action. In terms of specs, we have 55 Newton meters of torque. We've got a 400 watt hour battery, so a little bit smaller, called the compact tube, and it is the highest energy density battery of any in their range. This one is integrated into the bike's down tube, and together with the lightweight drive unit casing, makes for a really slim silhouette and a more analog bike aesthetic. For the Bosch Performance Line SX motor to operate, you do require a speed sensor, which is located on the valve on the rear wheel. Should you not have this speed sensor, as perhaps we may have on an initial ride, you are not going to have a good time. The motor is unable to detect your speed and will essentially not work. So if you're up for an analog ride on your e-bike, you can do that, but definitely make sure that speed sensor is installed before you head on out. In terms of peak power, we've got 600 watts, and you might remember that number from the Bosch Performance Line CX motor. Yep, it's the same number, 600 watts. Anybody who does a few watts, watches their power meter, will know that 600 watts is nothing to sneeze at. The difference, however, is in how that power is delivered. So for the Bosch Performance Line SX, power delivery is quite dependent on the user behaviour, and especially in terms of their cadence. So to access the full 600 watts of power, you have to be pedaling at a cadence of 100 or above. So that is a fairly spinny operation for most riders. At a cadence of 70, which is probably where most people will land up a big climb on the mountain bike, the peak power is 400 watts. If you want to mix it up with your friends who are perhaps on full cream e-bikes, or you want to go for much longer adventures, Bosch have also released the PowerMore 250 range extender, which sits here in the bottle holder, just slides on and off in the Bosch integrated cage, plugs on in, and gives you a total of 650 watt hours with the SX drive unit. The PowerMore 250 range extender weighs in at about 1.5 kilos, taking that total battery unit weight up to about 3.5 kilos. So for 650 watt hours, still pretty exceptional. If you're able to pedal at 100 RPM or above, and you're able to put down the watts, you love a sprint out of a corner, you're into those big numbers at a high cadence, that's when the motor really comes alive. It operates almost like essentially a full power motor. You're getting that pickup out of corners, you're able to accelerate really rapidly, but it really is dependent on you, the rider. The Bosch Performance Line SX also features the new integrated system controller on the top tube. Here you can turn the motor on and off and sweep through the 4 available modes, which are Eco, Tour Plus, eMTB and Turbo. We are also using the new mini remote here, which is a bar mounted remote, which essentially does the same thing as a little shifter. Also features the walk assist mode, which is really handy if you do come up against something that is not rideable on any bike, helps you power up those climbs while you're on your feet. The system controller integrated into the top tube also has a visual representation of what mode you're in, for green for eco, all the way up to red for the turbo mode. It shows your battery life in 5 bars that start off blue, then they will change to white as they go down and eventually drop off completely. So you'll have, for example, 80% battery will be 4 bars with the white one not illuminated at all, and then the fourth bar will go white before it drops illumination. When you get down to those last 2 bars, you betcha, it goes to orangey red, and that's when you know you need to make it home. The Bosch SX system, of course, integrates with the really cool Bosch Flow app, meaning you can customize your modes, you can see how much range you've got, and you can even navigate to new places using a range of different options. All up, the bike we have been riding with the new Bosch Performance Line SX drive unit weighs in at under 20 kilos for a 140mm trail bike, and really is noticeably different to full powered e-bikes in the way that it handles because of the weight reduction. We gave this bike a fair bit of action on the trails, from short, really savage elevation seeking ride in turbo mode to longer trail rides in eMTB mode with sparing use of turbo. But we found that with the PowerMore range extender, we actually got to the point where I ran out of available ride time due to family reasons, and I couldn't drain the battery. We went home on red, but we still had far to go, and that was well over 3 hours and 55k of a lot of vertical trails. In terms of ride experience, our time aboard the Bosch Performance Line SX drive unit has actually been really fun. Previously, I've struggled to really fall in love with a full powered eMTB. This might be because I'm a bit of a peddler at heart, which might be daggy, but it's who I am. But the Bosch Performance Line SX really just takes you as a rider and amplifies it into a better version of yourself. It also means that the whole bike is lighter overall. So instead of just riding a really massive sled down a big hill, which some of you love to do, and that's fine, I really enjoy the feeling of sort of oneness with the bike, of throwing the bike around, of nimbleness in the corners and popping off things, and it sort of retains a lot more of that analog bike feel because of the weight reduction of the drive unit. When you're riding uphill on the SX, it's a different experience. As we've discussed before, pedaling and cadence are key to getting the most out of the unit. It makes it a little bit unusual or a really different experience for those who are used to pedaling the mountain bike. As mentioned, up really long climbs where to get the most out of the unit, you're pedaling at a really high cadence for a long period of time. It's in these really long, maybe steeper climbs that it might be worthwhile bringing that cadence down, and you might not be going at the speed that you would be at a full paced eMTB or a full cream eMTB, but you're still getting that ride experience out of it, and it does feel sort of more natural. You could go out, you could do laps of the local downhill, and rather than just shuttle pigging it up on a full powered eMTB, you're working on the way up, and then you get to experience the joy of a lighter bike on the way down. Though the SX unit does feature 55 Newton meters of torque, and it's on the slightly smaller side compared to many full powered e-bikes, the fact that it is a lighter bike and it has quite a sensitive feel means that we haven't actually experienced any problems with that. If you put that in, you pop that cadence up a little bit higher, you're going to get a really sporty kind of feel. And though while Bosch say that it is more on the sensitive side rather than the sporty side, if you're willing to pop a little bit in, it feels very sporty. Throughout our time spent on the bike, we pretty much defaulted to eMTB mode for really long rides, and that range with the PowerMore was exceptional. Like, we couldn't fault it. I don't want to ride for more than 3.5 hours at the moment because my legs don't have it in me. For those who want to boost up, it does markedly reduce your range, but with the PowerMore you still have a couple of good hours as long as you're not just boosting straight up and going down. And so we were actually really impressed with how this lightweight system could toe the line against a full powered one just with the range extender in terms of range and performance. The Bosch Performance Line SX have gone the extra mile to try and reduce the auditory noise of the motor. This has been pretty effective. It definitely has been a reduction in noise. You get a bit of a whir, especially if you're on the turbo mode, the higher output mode. But for Eco, Tour Plus and eMTB, it is very, very low audibility. What we did notice, if you're listening very carefully, is that when you hit that 25k an hour, or when that motor is engaging and disengaging, so perhaps on a descent, you can hear that really, really mild knock of that motor engagement. I don't think that's enough to put anyone off this motor, and it is very, very mild. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but it's something to notice and expect if you're riding this drive unit. Overall, I must say I was really pleasantly surprised by the Bosch Performance Line SX. For someone who prioritises pedaling over e-bikes, I thought that this is maybe the way or the gateway drug to e-bike riding for me. It's essentially just taking what you're putting in and amplifying it. It feels really natural. As I said, it's quite sensitive when you're just riding, but if you put that power in, it really spices up the trail. I love this bike for the ability that you can go up fire roads that are savage and unrideable on an analog bike, get to the top of that sketchy downhill, go down and ride back up. You're not doing that on your trail bike because you don't have the gears, it's a bit too heavy, the legs hurt, but you're still getting a workout when you're doing it, which is really cool and something that everybody says, but it is true on this drive unit more than others, for sure. So overall, if you are a peddler that's e-bike curious, I would tell you, go and take it for a ride. See how it feels, compare a few, because if you enjoy the pedaling, you enjoy the trail bike, the Bosch Performance Line SX is just like you, but better. So if you've enjoyed us discussing the Bosch Performance Line SX, heck, even if you haven't, I would ask you to like and subscribe for more cool videos and features.